You know, what the subtitle of the book is How to See the Invisible and Do the Impossible. And you think, wow, how could you possibly do that? But one of the reasons that I love technology all my life, and I think many of us have a shared passion in that, is because technology lets you do impossible things. I mean, if you think back to the dawn of time, most of the things that you and I do on a daily basis, at one point in time, was completely impossible, including sitting in a comfortable chair. At one time, you had to find a stump. How is it that humans have been able to redefine reality, literally, ever since we set foot on this planet? And the answer is, give me a new tool, I'll change the world. Again, when somebody showed up that first wheel, I would have said, hey, this is cool. But word spread slow. Even when they invented the telephone, word spread slow. Hey, who'd you call? But today, word is spreading at 186,000 miles a second. It's in this room, it's inside, it's outside, it's in the cloud. It's multimedia. It's in every language. And by the way, there's going to be more there next year than there is this year. And that leads me to an interesting thing. We've never had more uncertainty than we have right now on this planet. Amazing amounts of uncertainty. In this particular country right now, we're asking ourselves, well, what's going to happen with health care? Is the House and the Senate going to be able to get along with each other? Will Democrats and Republicans be able to come around and actually move us forward? What's going to happen with the price of oil? When are foreclosed homes going away? And no matter what country you might be in, you've got similar questions loaded with uncertainty. Strategy based on uncertainty has high risk. Strategy based on certainty has low risk and high reward. So I have to ask myself, am I certain of nothing? What am I certain about? Remember a number of years ago, the ex-chairman of GM, Rick Wagner, I was giving a speech. He knew I was a forecaster, a futurist. And when we were introduced, he came up to me and he said, well, of course, no one can predict the future. And I said, well, it's winter now, next will be spring. Hey, I think I'll be right. Now, what I just did was I gave you an example of a cycle. There are over 300 known cycles that let you anticipate the future. There are weather cycles, business cycles, biological cycles, many cycles. And economists use cycles quite often when they're looking at the future. But there's another kind of change. I call it linear change, that is now extremely profound and happening faster than we've ever experienced before. Once this kind of change hits, you're changed and you're not going back. Once you get a smartphone, you're not going to go back to a dumb phone. You've been changed, you're going forward, you're not going back. So is there a way that we can find certainty, that we can look at all of these trends? Let me just give you some examples of certainty and show you how good you are at certainty right now. Let's take smartphones. Let's just pick the iPhone for an example. All right, in the next iPhone, because let's face it, there's a lot of uncertainty. Not long ago, Steve Jobs stepped down for medical leave, uncertainty, what's going to happen? Is he going to be back? Where's it going? Again, I have to ask, what am I certain about? So let's take that smartphone and show how much you know about it. Is the next version going to have more memory in the device as well as in the cloud? How many, if anyone in this room thinks, no way, forget it, raise your hand. All right, nobody put their hand up. In other words, by the way, are we certain? And the answer is, of course, we're certain, yeah. How about anyone in this room think that, no way, they just can't have a faster processor? Nah, can't do it, raise your hand. All right, no one put their hand up. And by the way, you're certain once again. How about more bandwidth? They're going to be able to have more bandwidth. You got 3G, the cell networks are starting to come out with 4G. Gee, I wonder what's going to be next. Could it possibly be 5G? We're going to be able to have more bandwidth. The answer is, of course, yes, definitely. We got streaming video on our phones right now. Will it be high definition streaming, or is that impossible to have? And of course, we know we can have high definition streaming. Not only that, a couple of years ago, I reported in one of my newsletters about a little chip. Pretty easy to predict the future when it's already invented. It was about a little chip that could beam an image out of a mobile device, like a phone or a camera, and you can already get that today in some products. By the way, will that image get better, or is it just impossible to make that image better? And of course, we already know you can make that image better and better. So when we put all of this together, what does it mean? Where is the, what I call, flash foresight? And the foresight is, will we be able to transform how we train and how we educate using mobile devices? And the answer is, certainly. And if you don't do it, someone else will. As a matter of fact, we're going through what I would call this next 5 years, the great transformation, not the great change, because the words are different. I find all these companies using the word transformation. Everybody's talking transformation. But you have to understand it doesn't mean faster change. It's something different. Here's what it means to me. When I was a young kid, I could listen to my albums. One album per spinning disc, 33 1/3. So I could listen to my Pink Floyd, and my Jimi Hendrix, and my Allman Brothers. You get my vintage, all right? And I could listen to that one album per spinning disc. And then as I got older, all of a sudden the technological change came around, and it was really welcome. I loved it. It let me have one album per smaller spinning disc. It was called the CD. And it got rid of the hisses and the pops and the scratches. Ooh, I like that. So I rebought all my old stuff and bought new stuff on CDs. And of course today I've got all my music in my phone, and it's in my pocket right now. You know, that didn't change how I listen to music. It transformed how I listen to music. Well, in that same way, we're about to transform how we sell, how we market, how we innovate, how we collaborate, how we communicate, how we educate, how we train. If you're only changing those things, you will fail. Polaroid, they were in the instant photography business. Somehow they didn't see it. Isn't that what digital is? Instant photography? Yahoo was the leader in search until someone else saw something that they didn't see. An invisible opportunity became visible. As a matter of fact, I've worked with Yahoo, and if you were in search with Yahoo in 1998 or 99, you were in the backwaters because they didn't think you could monetize it. You were back in the basement. You were down below. No hope for getting up the chain. You can count example after example. Blockbuster. How do they see the future different than Netflix or Hulu? As a matter of fact, look at newspapers and magazines today. We could look at what happened in the music industry. Well, you know what? That's just the beginning. Because we're at the base of a mountain of transformational change, driven by three big factors that we all know about in this room, but they're doing something now that they haven't done before. They've reached a flashpoint, and I've already alluded to them. Processing power, bandwidth, storage. You know, to go from a 5 megahertz chip to a 500 megahertz chip took 20 years. To double that took 8 months, and that was years ago. In other words, the graph looks like this and then goes up like a hockey stick. And right now we're in the part. And that's a big deal. TED and TED Talks couldn't exist 4 or 5 years ago. Why? Couldn't have YouTube 4 or 5 years ago. Didn't have devices to see them. Didn't have the bandwidth to see it. Didn't have the quality. Now we do. What do we have? TED becomes a global phenomenon because of the flashpoint. But we're just beginning with the flashpoints that are here today. So let's talk about doing impossible things. We are faced with amazing challenges on this planet and you personally. And here's an insight that I've learned. Whatever problem you have, that's not it. Whatever problem you've got, that's not it. That's why I haven't solved it. You're smart, you would have solved it by now. The reason you haven't solved your problem, no matter how big it is because it's the wrong one. That's why you haven't solved it. You have to peel it like an onion. You have to get back underneath to find the real problem. Give an example. A number of years ago, Eli Lilly, drug company, they had a problem. And of course, whenever I hear anybody that says they got a problem, I have a huge advantage because I know whatever they're about to say isn't it. And they said, we got a problem, we've got to hire at least 2,000 additional PhD researchers so that we can solve our molecular problems, so that we can get more drugs in the pipeline, so that our stock price goes up. Because that's how we get our stock price up. We need drugs in the pipeline, we need molecular problems solved, we need more researchers. Our problem is we don't have a budget for the 2,000 researchers. So what do? They put their problems on the internet in a dozen languages and said, we pay for solutions. Now they have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of PhD researchers all over the world submitting solutions to the molecular problems, and they buy the ones they want to buy. Was the problem they didn't have the budget? The answer is no, that's what they perceive the problem to be. So it's all about perceiving the problem. A lot of us think, you know, it's money. Money's the issue. Or sales, or whatever it might be, which tend to be results of something else. So peel it back. You know, I was mentioning this to an audience in a speech one time, and when I finished speaking, there were some people that wanted to talk to me, and there was a woman off to the side, and clearly she wanted to talk to me, but privately. And when the people kind of went away, and I was just by myself, she came over and she said, I heard what you said about problem skipping. I got a problem I can't skip. And I said, oh, what is it? She said, I was just diagnosed with terminal cancer, rapid growing, I have less than a year to live, there's no treatment for it. I don't want to die. And I can't stop thinking about it, because I don't want it. and I'm thinking about dying all the time. How do I skip that? And I said, well, why don't you skip thinking about dying until you're dead, and once you start thinking about living while you're alive? Well, it seems simple, but 30 days later, I got a postcard, and then I even got a text from Europe. She said she was on a vacation with her girlfriend, and she said it changed my life. So even something like that. So take a look at what you think the problem is, and then look at if you can skip it. Let's just talk about changing marketing for a second. No, transforming it. Let's look at a company that's out of favor. I mentioned it before, Yahoo. There's communities, electronic communities of interest and electronic communities of practice. Practice is a function like sales or CFOs or CIOs, and they could have an electronic community sharing best practices. Any profession could do that. But communities of interest, let's talk about those a minute. Corvettes, not just any Corvettes, could be 1957 Corvettes. That could be a community of interest with thousands and thousands of people posting their pictures. Baseball, basketball, football, sailing, pick a subject, they're there. 600 million people are in those, in Yahoo alone. We're not talking about the others, we're just talking about Yahoo, sharing their passion. So I was talking to a company, and they were about to run a big national television ad, because they had a sports drink, and they claimed that it had rapid recovery, benefits that would give you rapid recovery from physical exercise, and they were going to do a national television ad on this. And I said, well, what percent of the audience watching that television commercial is interested in rapid recovery? And of course, some PR company gave them a percent. And I said, okay, that sounds good. I said, I got a question for you. Just on Yahoo alone, how many communities of interest with thousands of members each do you think there are for triathlons? And of course, they didn't have a clue. But I knew the answer. It was 1,072. And I said, and what percent of that audience would be interested in rapid recovery from physical exertion? And of course, you already know the answer, 100%. And I said, now how many football, how many baseball, how many soccer, how many running? Pretty soon we added up over 30 million people that would be 100% interested in what they were selling, and a much easy, inexpensive way of reaching them without ever having to do television at all. Are we going to transform marketing? The answer is, oh yeah. We're going to transform the whole shooting match. And when I look at the world of certainty, I have to remember the one thing that I put on the top of that world of certainty. And what I'm going to put on the top of the world of certainty is it's a human world. It's all about relationships. Because as we get more and more technical, just remember, hey, it's a human world. And relationships, good relationships, are all based on trust. And how do you get trust? Well, you have to earn trust. And how do you earn trust? Honesty, integrity, delivering on promises. In other words, values that all of us hold dear and true to ourselves. So never teach people to distrust you. Yet it happens all the time. Not because we're distrustful or bad people or evil people. It's because we're assuming trust. I've never seen a company yet that didn't have those kind of values as part of their value statement in their corporation. But you see, it's assumed, meaning it's in the back of your mind, it's not in the front of your mind. But now that we're becoming interconnected more and more, we got to bring that to the front of our mind. For example, I have a lot of electronic newspapers that I read, and I've been computing since the early 80s. But I still like a newspaper, although that's kind of fading right now because of the tipping point I'm in. But I have liked newspapers, a local newspaper. Maybe it's my age, maybe it's because I'm a baby boomer. And I don't mind paying $195 a year to get that paper. It's okay, I've been doing it for years, I just kind of do it. But I've been traveling, and I missed the renewal. So when I got back home, the phone rang, and it was the newspaper company. And they called me, and they said, Mr. Burrus, we noticed that you missed your renewal. Would you renew for $95? Now, what did that make me feel? What did it make me think? It made me think, well, how long have I been getting ripped off? Am I ever going to trust anything that they send me again? What do you think? The answer is no, because what? They're teaching me to distrust them. The only way I'm going to get the truth out of them is to complain. Take your phone company right now. Whatever phone company you've got, call them, tell them you're going to cancel. You know what they'll do? They'll give you a better price. And what does it make you think? How long have I been getting ripped off? If they ever called you and said, you've been a loyal customer for 5 years, we've got a new deal that we're bringing out to get some new customers in, we're going to give that deal to you, thank you for being a customer. They've never done that ever, have they? Now, you know what the problem with cell phone companies are? Customer churn. People keep leaving. Gee, I wonder why. They've given us no reason to stay. So it's a human world. So therefore, I'd like you to do the trust meter, an old-fashioned gas gauge. Whenever you, now none of them digital here, think of it as an old-fashioned gas gauge. Low trust, high trust. Whenever you're implementing any change, by the way, you're going to implement a lot. Whenever you implement any change of any kind, I want you to ask yourself, where is trust between us and the people that are affected by this change? Get where that is, and then ask ourselves, if we implement this change in this way, what happens to trust? And if trust goes down, don't do it in that way. By the way, I didn't say don't do it. I said don't do it in that way. Change how you do it so trust stays where it is. And if anybody in your organization can raise the bar on trust, I want you to tell me the name of that company so I can invest in it. Because if you're raising the bar on trust, you're going to be doing fantastic. Because it's a human world, not just a technical world. Technology is benign. It's not good or evil. It's how we use it. Hey, we can use technology to give you cancer or cure your cancer. It's not the technology. It's how we apply it. It's not the tool, it's how you use it. I mean, I know people that can literally pick up a telephone and make a call and lose $1 million. I know people that can pick up a telephone, make a call and make $1 million. The difference? Hey, it's not the phone. So it's how we creatively apply that phone. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even have to be new tech. It can be old tech. It doesn't matter whether it's high tech, old tech, new tech. Take Microsoft Word. How many features in the old version, I won't even pick the new version, actual features are there to select and use? And I know the answer, over 4,000. How many do you use? 5, 6, 7? And when you get the new version, are you keeping up? My point here is keeping up is a fool's game. What's the advantage of keeping up? I want to jump ahead. I have to be using the features that you're using, sure, but there's no advantage in that. I want to be using the things that you don't use. Obsolescence is a non-issue if you're doing the things that give you advantage. But if all I'm doing is keeping up, then obsolescence is a big issue, a huge issue. Another thought that I'd like to share with you. You have multiple talents. You have multiple talents, but you got one gift. You've got one amazing gift. And your friends probably know what it is better than you. The people that know you best know better than you. If you can decide and understand what your gift is and direct your talents to support that gift instead of pull you away from that gift, then you can soar endlessly. Because when you're working within the zone of talent, you can only go so far. When you're working within a gift, there's an endless up. I'd like to challenge you to pick something that you consider to be impossible. Completely and totally impossible. And then what I'd like you to do is to ask yourself, peel the onion. What's the real problem? Is there a technology that could solve that? And I think what you're going to find is there are solutions and there are answers that were hidden from view. You'll get the foresight to move forward. Thank you.
What a marvelous talk. So, questions, comments?
Yeah, let me get over here now that we can switch to a different